Hello and welcome back to We Bought a Mic, a pop culture podcast, a 2024 cast, album cast, music cast.
Yeah.
We're here. We made it.
This is what, the 6th year been doing this? Is that right?
Of Listomania?
Yeah.
I think so.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
We got to switch up or something.
We're about to hit an
move.
entirely different generation.
Welcome. My name's Ernest.
This past year, I was in a chemical haze, and my name's Hunter.
He's begging for it.
I'm already uncomfortable.
I'm Drew, and we've got our
Musical guest.
long-time listener, long-time caller.
I honestly don't know why I'm your music guy.
I'm gonna be asked, Danny, have you ever listened, or are you just a caller?
No, so I know theme songs of like game shows, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where it stops.
Danny. Hey,
Hey,
welcome.
how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a while. What, 4 days?
Been a while.
It's been a while.
It's 4 days after the new year, which is when it is, in our eyes, legal to talk about music that came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're not dropping this shit in November like a bunch of liars.
Yeah, because you know what happens when you dropped a list early is then you done fucked up, and then the next year you have to say like, oh, that album that came out the previous year, that's actually the best album of this year. Cough cough to Variety, Pitchfork, every other fucking artist or every outlet in the world that's just like honoring
SZA.
SZA, an album that is a 2022 album and did not come out in 2023.
Welcome to Listomania for the best of 2023. Today we're doing albums, the best albums of 2023. This is an annual tradition. We start off the new year. We start off in January talking about the best in the previous year in albums, TV, and movies. So this week it's albums. How do we feel about music this past year? Is it still good?
Yeah. I mean,
Embrace debate.
yeah, I think like a lot of staying bands that like we all like didn't release stuff. And I think that left us a lot more room to explore and realizing like how much good stuff is actually out there.
That's actually a really good point. I found a lot of fun stuff that I really enjoyed this year. And after we get through our 2023 list, I have a lot of stuff I got into this year that's not from 2023 or last year.
Some catalog.
Yeah. You know, I think most of the listening I did last year was not new music at all. And that's valid.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like this year was different from this past year was different from 2022, because 2022 I feel like I was like in the Spotify discovery, like in the depths of it every single day, discovering all kinds of new bands, new artists that I had never really listened to before, and new albums that were coming out from those bands. And today, or this past year, I should say, I don't know what my discovery was on, but it's just like, we're going to show you some more stuff that is older, that got lost to time, and we're going to give that more of that to you.
That's good.
It's funny this year. Like, I'm not like, as we go on with time, I don't know if I'm going to think about albums that were released this year as like defining 2023, because I think culturally, this is kind of the year of Taylor Swift. And I think that if we're talking about this year as defined by music, I think that's undeniable that this is the year that Taylor Swift became not like unequivocally the biggest artist since Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you feel that way, like whether her music warrants it or not, I don't think any of us think that like she is the most talented musician since Michael Jackson, but she has figured out the perfect way to market herself and become bigger than any other artist alive.
She's a machine, dude, and there's really no end in sight, because it's not like she's on blow or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't
like, what's she gonna do to end this?
I don't see her getting into like Fent.
The thing is, well, every single hero and artist is going to have a come down. There's going to be a heel turn at some point in time. Maybe it will happen after she's done with all the re-releases that will come out. Like, maybe that's when a heel turn comes, but
Maybe
you're right. It's not like she has a drug problem. She's kind of like perfectly managed her brand in a way that I've never really seen before. The closest thing is like kind of LeBron James, of just like having all of this fame and attention on you, and somehow you find a way to eclipse that in pretty much every calculable way, no matter what you personally think about the guy. It's kind of undeniable.
Maybe, she's so like ubiquitous. It seems like she has almost like more power than Joe Biden. Maybe she'll solve the war. And she'll come in there and like
Did you
shake
see
hands.
that? It was like I guess a statistic that whenever her or Beyonce go to a city like new country, the economy just improves drastically.
She grossed more money this year from her tour than the GDP of I think like 16 countries.
Yeah, it's absurd.
That's fucked up. That shouldn't be allowed.
She makes
She's more
more.
powerful than she should have a state at the United Nations, like a seat there.
So if you think about a lot of these festivals, like I think a good example of one that maybe makes less money than her, like Shaky Knees. One night of her tour makes more than Shaky Knees does, like in revenue, which is crazy to think of.
I don't like that.
It's insane.
It's not even about her music at a certain point or how good it is. It's just like, how did that happen?
You got to respect the hustle.
I don't understand it.
She works hard.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you started the discussion of the year in music and someone that is not going to be on our list because she didn't come out with any new music this year.
She came out
Get the
with
reissues?
4.
They're not
Okay.
reissues. They're Taylor's version.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't say that.
Re-recordings, whatever the fuck. I'm happy.
Reimaginings.
I'm happy for her. I'm happy.
Ernest, okay.
My entire top 10 is Jack Antonoff related.
Okay. So does that mean I get to put can I put the Killer's greatest hits?
No, but you can put the new Beatles song as one of
Okay.
your top 10 albums.
Okay, good.
I will let you include Imploding the Mirage.
From 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's allowed to be in here.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I largely agree with this year being, quote unquote lesser. I feel like I always say this and then we get to this episode and then like I look at an amazing list of like incredible albums. So I'm just like, okay, it wasn't bad. I just think that it wasn't too much of a struggle for me to put my top 10 together. Like I feel pretty great about my 10 albums. I think maybe they're all pretty even. Like I don't really feel that strongly about the ranking of them. They could really go in any order. I wasn't really freaking out too much. I kind of decided on the 10 and they can go in almost any order.
Yeah, I'm also like in looking at my list today, I realized there's a ton of stuff from this year that I didn't have time to. I mean, I did. I had plenty of time. Am I that busy?
Yeah.
I didn't listen to.
I didn't have time
Like-
in the last 365 days to give this one a shot.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but I don't know. Like, I didn't listen to Sufjan's album. I like the guy. Maybe it's great.
Same. Yeah, that was
Maybe
on
it's
my
fun.
to get to.
Yeah, maybe it's awesome. Sufjan is just permanently on my to get to.
Yeah.
I'm not sad enough.
You
Yeah,
weren't
exactly.
sadly no boy enough. Yeah.
I am turning 30 this year. That might be on the 30 list.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We gotta get you into Death Cab first before you can
the
get into
national
Death
What
Cab,
else?
My Morning Jacket,
Sufjan.
Yeah.
Sufjan,
I have a lot of
Wilco.
I have a lot of like LCD sound system like live records that I need to get to as well.
That you've been old since you were like 22 with that shit.
What about some like Bob Dylan live records?
Yeah.
Is that more like when you're 40?
Yeah, I don't think 30-year-olds are blasting Bob Dylan anymore.
You got to get into SIGs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys,
Or-
should 2024 be the year that we bring back cigarettes?
I've heard that they're
Just
super
smoking
hot
up
right
the
now.
pot.
Maybe
studio.
that's how we can cancel Taylor Swift.
That would
we gotta
be-
get her into cigarettes.
That would be the dopest aesthetic is us sitting in like a hazy garage, like blasting SIG,
just hammering
going through
pack of
like a
these.
carton. That would be fucking cool. Wearing
I'm
like,
like, Drew, fuck you in your takes.
I have like a tumor coming out of my head. I'm like, Fall Out Boy wasn't that good.
Fall Out Boy is freaking awesome, dude.
That's going to be like year 17 of this podcast.
Yeah,
When
we'll
like
get
the
there.
5th nuke has dropped on like Yeah.
So,
All right.
you ready to get into it?
All right. Let me pull up the random wheel, the random name wheel. And then we can figure out who goes first, and then I guess we'll do clockwise.
Okay.
What do we usually do? Counterclockwise?
Sure.
I think there's going to be a lot of save it's.
Do you think so? I was actually wondering this. How much carryover?
I do think so.
I think that there's going to be some carryover at the top of our list if I had to make guesses.
If any listeners haven't tuned into any previous Listomania episodes,
seen it? You heard about this?
Oh, fuck.
these Vizzies are already
You've
kicking
had
in.
like 3 sips of a Vizzy.
If this is your first Listomania episode, the way we do it is if there's overlap, we wait to have the discussion until the person that has it the highest on the list brings it up. Okay.
Before we start, should we put out like the betting odds of how long this pod's going to go? I think, how long was it last year? It got split up into 2 parts. What was it? 3 hours and 40 minutes total?
Pray to God it's not that fucking.
I think this is going to be less than 3 hours just because of the save it's.
I'm going to guess that's going to be 4 hours and 82 minutes.
Why would you manifest that?
I have a lot of thoughts. So many thoughts.
So
Danny, you go first.
I go first. Okay, I don't think anyone's gonna have this one.
You're number 10.
Cool. My number 10 is "Ooh Rapaya" by George Clanton.
Hey, George
Yeah.
Clanton,
Nice.
cool as fuck. Didn't listen to this album this year.
Dude, it's
George Clanton rocks.
yeah. It's like a very like 90s nostalgia like pop album. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like poppy, vaporwavy almost.
Yeah, that's how he made his name is by being like the like prestige vaporwave artist. But that was a few years back. You know, now I don't know if you could call the new album that or not.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Indie Heads and I was like, what is this? Everyone's talking about this. And then I finally took a listen. It's not normally what I listen to. I'm a big rock guy with a dose of hip hop, you know? And when I listened to it, I was like, this is too catchy. This has to stop. I've Been Young is top 10 songs of the year for sure. It's like the music video is like him performing at like a TRL set almost. And it's like, and here we have George Clanton. And he's like boy bandy, like
Sick.
it's like a dose of boy band with like indie. It's fun. It's like hip hop influenced beats, but it's still pop. I don't know how to describe it. I just really like recommend you at least take a dive into it. He definitely has like Michael Jackson influences in a lot of like this record. I would date, maybe a dose of Brockhampton in there.
More modern sounds.
Yeah,
mixed with the.
It's like modern with like the 90s nostalgia. I think 90s nostalgia kind of like brings it home because I mean we are 90s kids, right, guys?
Right.
Yo, if it's not the 90s when I wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
But yeah, that's my number 10. Ooh Rapaya.
Ooh, rap I like
Yeah.
I yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
By George Clanton. That is Danny's number 10. All right. Should we go clockwise to you, Hunter? Let's go to you.
Sure. I'll go next. I don't think that anybody has this album either. I have KAYTRAMINÉ, the collab album between Kaytranada and Amine.
It's an honorable mention for me. I like that album.
It is really, really great album. It's an album that I listened to right whenever it first came out back in like May-ish, middle of the year. And I keep going back to it throughout the year. I wouldn't say that it is the most like complex rap album that you'll ever listen to it, but it also just has like fucking banger after banger and just so many songs that just have that earworm ability that gets stuck in your head. They're really good. The thing about this album that makes it resonate for me is I've been a big Amine head for years, like going back to his first album, Good For You, the like breakthrough one that had Caroline and Heebie Jeebies on it. And I have always wanted him, like he's always been one of those artists that I feel like has so much potential and has never really been able to live up to it and to put out a complete album that feels cohesive, that is banger after banger on every track. And his marriage with Kaytranada is like it's a match made in heaven. I have a feeling that there's going to be another artist collab that's going to come up later on in this episode between two artists, but That's been another thing that's been like kind of defining the year is these two or more independent artists coming together. Maybe it's the Brockhampton effect, the Silk Sonic effect of just these two independent artists wanting to come together and make something unique, this new sound together. I honestly think that this is some of the best work that KAYTRAMINÉ has ever done, and I've always been a huge KAYTRAMINÉ fan. It's very classic, like you could hear this on the radio hip hop tracks that just fucking bang.
Yeah.
Just bang.
Got some Freddie Gibbs on there. Got some Pharrell on there. And
great Big Sean.
I was gonna say
on Master P.
That's he is better in features generally. That's my favorite, one of my favorite beats of the year, and it's really impressive that it overcomes the fact that I really don't care for Big Sean very much.
Here's the thing. You want Big Sean as your feature. Whenever you'd never want him, like he's like having, he's like Klay Thompson as your third guy. Like you don't want him leading a team. He's leading a team. You're getting like the 30-win Orlando Magic.
Klay Thompson is your third guy like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying 2023 Klay Thompson. I'm talking about like Golden State major run Klay Thompson. This is like it's perfectly deployed Big Sean. Yeah, it's a banger. Highly recommend. You shout out Master P. Let's Talk About It and Forever are two absolute bangers. Sauce Up and STFU 3 are just another couple complete bangers.
It's a great fun summer album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very, very light. And a very
it's not trying to do too much, you know. It's doing exactly what it needs to. It's a fun listen, you know. I liked it.
Yeah.
So the album is called KAYTRAMINÉ by KAYTRAMINÉ and Amine.
Well, they also just go by KAYTRAMINÉ.
Oh, so they formed
it's a self-titled KAYTRAMINÉ.
Okay, gotcha. So does that imply like
more
future?
I hope so.
Releases.
I really hope so. I don't know if you guys. I don't know where y'all are at on KAYTRAMINÉ as like a producer.
Excellent producer.
I've always loved KAYTRAMINÉ, and
he has features with like Anderson .Paak is one of them.
Her as a frequent collab. Like I just have always really loved the sound that he goes for. It's something that's very classic. It's very throwback, and that with. Amine is like one of those artists that like if he came out like 10 years earlier, I think he would be one of the biggest rappers in the world because he has such a classic sound, but it's just rap has kind of changed and become more alternative and more like niche in a way that he hasn't really found the right space yet.
Yeah, sometimes he lets me down a little bit with like the quality of what he's saying, because I think KAYTRAMINÉ is one of the better producers of like the century, like really up there. And every now and then like there will be a bar in there where I'm like,
what's that one that's in the first? It's in the first song of his last album, Amine's. It's like oh god, I forgot. It was so bad. It made me so uncomfortable.
He can just be a little corn dog, but I still like the guy.
Yeah.
KAYTRAMINÉ is Hunter's number 10. So we're coming back around to my number 10. Speaking of Taylor Swift, let's talk about the real queen of pop, Olivia Rodrigo.
You're gonna have to save that one.
Let's go.
Yeah, you're gonna have to save it.
Okay.
You guys are groomers.
Hey, she's 19.
I
think she's like 21.
No,
so
she's not a child.
I let the play counts talk on a lot of these, where I was like, this factually is not like in the best albums of the year, but I listened to it like so much all year. So my number 10 is Larry June and the Alchemist.
Okay. No, this is a good album.
With The Great Escape. It's fucking really good, man. Like it's a lot of the time, Alchemist is like one of the best producers of the century, and like arguably maybe ever. Like,
he was cooking this year.
I know he's been just on a manic tear for like a few years now. It's like, holy shit, dude, like take a break. But a lot of the time his beats on purpose, but they're a little more sterile than they are in this album. And in this album, they're very like, they sound like big and like fancy almost, and like luxurious in a way that he usually he likes to sound a little more like underground. And almost like lower fi, and it matches so well with Larry June, who's just a guy who likes like flying in planes and eating like shrimp. you know? And I don't know. I really, really, really like Larry's delivery, his voice in general, just the intonation of it is just phenomenal. Like he's talking about the same shit in every song, and I don't care. It's almost like a non-funny version of like Action Bronson. You know what I mean? Because that dude loves talking about food.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this guy, it sounds like you're on a PJ in this album. Like, you know what I mean? It's absolutely lovely. You can listen to the whole thing front to back. It's going to give you the same vibe all the way through. Good to listen while working. It works like super, super well for me. And it's not popping up on a ton of lists because it's like relatively simple. You know what I mean? But I loved it.
This one was in my long list. I think with a few more listens, it might have cracked the top 10 because I really enjoyed it. I think the thing that held me back is it's a little long. It's 15 songs. It's only 45 minutes, so it's not like a long listen. But I just felt like this year I valued albums that were short, that had like more kind of succinct track lists. And so this one, I kind of felt myself like, not really differentiating a lot of the songs from each other. I think this year I really valued like, okay, in the span of one album, how many great songs can you give me that stand on their own? That was kind of one of my, I know you talked about having a rubric last year. I didn't make a rubric, but I had certain things in my head that I was like evaluating, and so this one kind of knocked it down a little. But I really liked it. I never knew Larry June before this album, and now I'm a fan. So
yeah,
oh yeah.
I mean, I spent more time with Earl Sweatshirt's album with Alchemist, Voir Dire. I forgot. I think that's what it's called. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I respect everything
French?
Alchemist touches. He's an excellent producer. I had a friend that's been telling me to listen to this nonstop, and I was like, yeah, no problem. And now I guess I'll listen to it because you said so.
yeah,
You fucking hear that, buddy?
Mysterious.
What's her name?
friend.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, do you hear that, James? You don't matter. You're irrelevant. I'm gonna
well,
send him the link.
we all sign an agreement before recording this that we all have to listen to each other's
Yep.
picks.
You guys really checked out Coheed last year because since I had on the list, right? You gave
Accent.
it. You gave
I was the only guy that
it was
listened to it.
it was fifth on my list, so you had to listen to it 5 times.
Mhm. That's how it works.
So if it's your number one, you listen to it once?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna listen to that
Yes,
album
that's
10
right.
times
10
now.
times for your 10th favorite
Yeah.
album.
Good. Okay, so we're on to number 9. We're doing great, guys.
Yeah, for now.
We'll
I'm
see.
telling you, it's going to get worse.
We'll
as
see what
these start
happens.
coming down,
All right, Danny.
My number 9 is Volcano by Jungle.
hey,
I forgot about this album. I saw it come out and then I was like, I should listen to that, and then forgot about it.
You
And that's
you
bad
always
job by
know
me.
what to expect from a Jungle album, and they always deliver.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's not trying to get fancy. It's doing exactly what you expect it. It's groovy. It's fun. 70s, 80s, dancey, jazzy. They're catchy. They don't miss. It's they have some cool features. I love Channel 3 on the album.
Yes.
Channel 3 is on the album.
good, but honorable mention. For
I was
me.
gonna say,
EP.
wonder if that album was
Yeah.
gonna pop up on
It's an EP.
or EP. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that EP rocks too. I played it during New Year's.
I
of
think
one of the
so.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's they're awesome. They're way too talented. I think. I feel like they should be so much bigger than like. I feel like it should be like radio stuff. Like it's way too
Right.
dancey. It's
Right.
It's
fun.
close. It's I think I need to work on myself a little bit because I've never been able to separate them from like FIFA core.
I was gonna say FIFA music.
I got sick of that song.
It's a pain. It's like Tame Impala. Everyone associates him with like FIFA these days.
Yeah.
It feels like oh, he was on a FIFA soundtrack.
Hey, but FIFA is great music. So
Yeah.
I know
FIFA
that's
does
the
have
thing.
bangers,
They
yeah.
also they have a lot of music that's like really close to being like radio catchy, but it's just not on the radio. Like that's a lot of
Listen,
what they go
we
for.
became lifelong fans of Kanan because of their work on the 2010 FIFA World Cup.
yeah. No, this
Never forget what Coca-Cola did to that song that's about like African oppression.
Yeah, that's literally about the apartheid.
It is so fun.
Fucking, they're like, we're gonna sing it along to the Coca-Cola melody.
They could not get away with that shit today. Look, that's worth looking up if you're listening. Kanan waving flag, like
Coca-Cola
different,
remix.
different versions.
Shakira, Akon.
They took a song
Waka.
about like genocide and they put the Coke jingle in it and they made it about
And then
happiness.
Pepsi one up them with the Kendall Jenner.
Oh yeah, that was a huge win.
Man, it's
But no, I love this album. It's 14 tracks of just grooves, man. I've been thinking about which one. Back on 74, I think might be like
Oh
the
my
standout
gosh.
one.
Yeah.
Back on 74. Yeah.
And it's like, ooh,
Holding On is good too. Like, yeah,
Candle Flame. Yeah.
all
it's
these
good.
songs kind of sound the same, but like they just, you can't help but like,
Yeah.
shake your booty when you're listening. It's nice. You have a little, whatever you're doing, you're working, you're working out, like anything you do, putting this on, like you're just gonna get a little peppy. You're gonna have a little bit of.
It's hard to be sad and listen to Jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that's my 9.
All right, Hunter, number 9.
my number 9. Guys, everyone knows I'm a perfect all-American bitch.
Let's go.
And let's talk about Olivia Rodrigo. This album, Guts, I think is like an incredible work of pop. Pop / little bit of like that punk influence and everything. One thing that I've always appreciated about Olivia Rodrigo is that she fully wears all of her influences on her sleeve. Like you can just see like, okay, this is like a Taylor track. This is like her like trying to bring
Hayley
like,
Williams.
her Hayley Williams, her like
Yeah.
Paramore stuff. Like you can see, okay, now it's just like some more punkiness, and this is like more her singer songwriter. She's trying to do like a Lana thing here, and I've always really appreciated that about her. But I think that what she does in this album is so much headier and so much weightier than what she has on Sour lyrically.
I think
that
this is a step above.
Oh, absolutely. This is a major level up for
Yeah.
what she can be as an artist. And it shows like how much awareness she has about like herself and her stardom and kind of this existentialism that's setting in of like what's going to happen when I'm not this new hot young thing. Like thinking specifically of the closing track on this Teenage Dream, where it is just this sense of self-awareness that you don't really see from an artist that young, especially not somebody in the pop community.
Especially a female artist. Like there's a long history of young female pop stars like being taken advantage of by the music industry. I mean, look at Britney Spears. Like there is just a precedent for people like Olivia Rodrigo being like really destroyed in many ways. And I think that self-awareness you're talking about really comes across in a lot of these tracks, and her transitioning from being a kid to an adult, from being an adolescent to a young woman is like on full display in this album. She's growing up, and I think she's also shedding a lot of these trappings, these expectations that are put on what a young female pop star needs to be, what needs to sound like, and what they need to display as part of their persona. But also it's just a really catchy album. Like it's just a great pop album. Like it has this bright candy colored sheen underneath this kind of sad center. There is like a little bit
like
of a,
there's a little sad emo girl inside.
yeah, there is a little bit. Some of these songs I'm like, who hurt you, Olivia?
But also like, I don't know, there is something about this that it was funny. I was putting away Christmas decorations last week around the house, and I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna throw this album on, and I'm just like fucking belting the lyrics and everything, and Gaia just starts like laughing at me because she's just like, these songs are like a teenage girl breakup, and it kind of reminds me of there was a Lana album that came out a couple years ago, Norman fucking Rockwell, where I'm just walking around the house being like, hope is a dangerous thing for a woman like me to have. You mentioned about kind of like shedding the mold of what a pop star is like supposed to look like and supposed to sound like. I think that in a year that I mentioned Taylor at the top for a reason, that I think that in a year that's been so dominated by Taylor Swift, and Swifties, I'm not saying anything negative about Taylor Swift. I want to preface that right now.
do you think we'll get more or less comments
because
from
I'm
Color Purple?
saying it. Definitely more. A lot more. A lot more. Dude, fucking the fucking Swifties, if they like put their powers together, they would already have the full Epstein plane documents right now if they really wanted to.
But they don't want to see that she was on there.
Well, she has her own plane, so she could get there herself.
No, I think that in a year that's been dominated by Taylor, who, as much as I respect her, does have like she has her lane and she kind of sticks to it and is not necessarily the most like physically gifted singer of words. I think because I do think that she's a good songwriter, so I'm not trying to take that away from her, but I think that she is limited in her like vocal ability.
She'll very readily admit that.
Exactly. Like
she's not a great singer.
Yeah, it's not like when you compare her to like Ariana Grande or even Olivia Rodrigo. I think she's a lot more limited in that capacity, and I think that having somebody on the other side in Olivia Rodrigo who is so much more experimental with what she wants her sound to be and what she wants to express about herself musically and lyrically, I think that that's so important to have in the pop community, and I really love this album a lot.
My mic stand is falling over, so I have to hold it.
You have to hold it for the next 3 hours.
I'm gonna fix it. Okay, one more thing I wanted to say about this album is I'm so glad that Jack Antonoff didn't produce this album. Because he has his little claws over so many of our best, most renowned pop stars. Shout out to Taylor. And I feel like this album benefits so much from sounding like pretty different. I mean, it still has that gloss, that sheen that you want from a pop record, but these songs, they sound really distinct. I don't know. I think a lot of pop music has been very flattened the last few years. Like it all kind of has the same overproduced sound to it. And I think this album stands out from a lot of that stuff. And you can kind of get a little bit of a more different, more like kind of richer, thicker feel from a lot of these songs. But yeah, just to shout out some of my favorite tracks. I love Vampire.
That was the song the guy was just like, I need you to tone it down a bit.
That's such a fucking great.
That is a good song.
It's a fucking banger. Absolutely a banger.
Pretty Isn't Pretty is also one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then, the closer, again, I think it's just an incredible track. 12 songs, 39 minutes. Again, make shorter albums.
The fact that you're emphasizing an album, it's almost like there's a band that we all know that released an album that's less than 27 minutes long that I have a feeling is going to make an appearance at some point on.
Perhaps. All right. That's Olivia Rodrigo. That is Hunter's 9 and my 10. We're back to my 9, which is Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monae.
Oh,
nice.
This one almost didn't make the list just because it didn't quite hit when it came out. It was a summer release. And it just didn't click. I heard it a couple times. Lipstick Lover was a good track over the summer. And I definitely, I like Janelle Monae. I definitely got the vibe of what she was going for with this, but it didn't click with me until this cramming session of the past like 3 to 4 weeks leading up to this episode, where I just listened to it a few times, like front to back. And I got it. It clicked. Like, they go by she, they pronouns. I'm going to use those interchangeably, but if you look in her Wikipedia, it says that she, they both.
I knew the second you stopped, I knew you were going to fuck up.
We don't. I got it.
It says that they go by both she and they. So
that doesn't mean you have to say both in equal measure.
Olivia Rodrigo. I'm gonna refer to she, her.
The Janelle stands are gonna destroy me.
You're walking on eggshells.
Actively trying to avoid getting destroyed by any stands whatsoever of any artist.
This is a very sexually charged album.
She's in her horny era.
Yeah, horny era, titty era. Like, she showed off her nipples during the rollout of this tour in a way that she never had before. There was a whole a lot of what defined Janelle Monae's music before this was very kind of futuristic and electronic. I mean, she had a whole album called Dirty Computer that was like a concept album.
That album was my number 5 of the year in 2018.
Yeah,
Love
I mean that's an amazing album, and I think a lot of people didn't like this album, Age of Pleasure, because it feels so different from that. I mean, this album, it really does away with a lot of electronic sounds. It's very much kind of like this hip hop R&B, but very much like a reggae album at times, like Afrobeat type album. So that sound really, really captivated me. It's not trying to do anything crazy. It's not really trying to kind of push the envelope in any meaningful way. It's just, how do we make the best like pool party hot summer day album? You know, hot people sweating by the pool, skin on skin, just really feeling each other. That's the vibe that this album is trying to get across. It's just really sexy, really hot, really sensual. Just it's dripping. That's what it is.
I'm gonna be honest. I really need to go back and listen to this one because I listened to it right whenever it first came out, and I was a little bit. I don't want to say disappointed, but Dirty Computer, the first time I listened to Dirty Computer, I was like, holy shit, this rules. And this movie doesn't really it's not as bombastic as Dirty Computer is. And I think because of that, I kind of just got lost in the pool of music that come out in any given year. But I really need to go back to this because I love Janelle Monae.
Yeah, she's got an excellent voice on the album. I'm a huge fan. Only Have Eyes 42 was a big plus sign for me. I like that song a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the big reggae tracks.
Yeah,
I think that one might sample like a famous reggae song because I recognize that might just be like a recurring reggae beat, but I recognize that one from, remember that movie from a couple of years ago, the Small Axe movie where they have that dance party.
Oh yeah,
reggae
Mangrove.
Dance party. The other one.
They're not Mangrove. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Lovers Rock.
Lovers Rock.
Yeah.
Yes. There is a song that is prominently featured in that movie that it sounds very, very similar to I Only Have Eyes for You. And yeah, definitely one of the standout tracks. Let's see if there were any others that I wanted to shout out.
I remember The Rush featuring Nia Long.
Water Slide.
Ime Udoka, famously a huge anti this album. Very against this album.
One thing I wanted to note is a lot of these songs flow together really well, which I always value. I like it when one song, like you feel like you're at like a DJ set or, you know, at a live event, and it's just seamlessly transitioning from one song to another. And especially the first half of this album really does that super well. Highly, highly recommend it. I feel like I'm trying to look at my list. There are some picks on here, we'll get to them, that are like very abrasive, heavy listening. And I really wanted to balance that out with some more kind of mellow stuff. So yeah, that's what this is. It's The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monae. It is my number 9. So Drew, we're at your number 9.
One that might have to wait, should be higher. I got to it way too late. It's Wednesday.
You're gonna have to wait on that.
Yeah, it's better than like my number 9. It's just I couldn't in good conscience put certain albums below it.
Wait on it a little bit.
Phenomenal album.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Rat Saw God.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, number 8.
My number 8 is Fronzoli.
Nice. I'm so glad that you put this album on here. I came to this album too late in the year.
It's by the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets.
It's another Italian too. What the hell?
There's something.
It's a hat on a hat.
There's something in the water in Australia. There's something there. We have to find it. Okay, because
these giant fucking spiders and shit that they just have there walking around there.
It's crazy. They're so fun. I don't get it. It's like the album goes from like thrashy rock to like psychedelic. Like,
I should have tapped into
this. You're screaming. You're mellow.
Ernie, I'm surprised that you have not gotten into psychedelic porn. As like a gizzard head, I'm surprised that you have not taken the dive.
I will. I promise you, I will. Didn't you see them live?
I did at the Social. So 400 person venue, saw them, and if this doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. It's a 33-minute album.
Okay.
Very tight.
Short album.
How many tracks?
Like 10.
10.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Baby. There we go.
I want to check this one out. I gotta admit, I don't like that band name. It reminds me of like Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Yeah.
It's like so like 2010
It
pilled.
feels
Very
like one of those.
Bombay Bicycle Club.
Okay, that's pointed toward
mean.
Danny.
Yeah, don't do that.
Jesus Christ.
I remember when I went to the show, I'm 30 now, so I'm allowed to ask for seats when I go to shows.
Yeah.
So there was like tables for some odd reason. And there was a couple sitting at one of the tables, but there were 4 seats. So me and Mitzel, I go and ask and I say, hey, can we sit next to you? We start sitting next to them. And the boyfriend obviously did not like the band. And he never heard of them.
Emotional support.
So he was like, I mean, I like psychedelics and I like porn. So I think
rocks.
he's like, I think this
He's
is
like,
going to go great.
Crumpets, I'm out on.
Yeah, I hate-
hard out on crumpets.
I hate the British.
Any pastries.
But he was sitting like the whole show just like bummed out to be there. And I'm like singing so much.
It's like
Me and Mitzel
amazing.
are like dancing
Good.
in our
Yeah,
chairs.
drown his ass out.
Yeah, fuck that.
Fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
I will say, I really like, I came to this album too late, but just giving it a few listens, the run from I'm a Cadaver Alakazam to Sierra Nevada that takes up like the first 2/3 of the album
Yeah.
is fucking incredible. It's really,
it
really
starts off hot. It's like a crazy riff right at the beginning, and it's like math rocky almost. I had notes. I just kept going. It's like bouncy psych rock. It's got like metal hooks and verses. You don't stay anywhere for too long. You don't know what's gonna happen at any moment of like the next like 30 seconds. They're goofy. They want to rock. They want to soothe you. It's a nice little trip down to Australia. I love this band. My buddy Brad, have you met Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Brad.
Yeah, he told me about this band and they came out with a record this
Damn,
year.
this is a Brad recommend?
This is a Brad
Holy
recommend.
shit, Brad is tapped in.
Well, I was the same way, the name sucks. I was like, I'm not giving them a chance. And I go, give me one song, and I'll listen to it.
Yeah, that's all you fucking get, Brad.
You get one song.
He gave me Lava Lamp Pisco. And then from there, I was psychedelic pilled.
Well,
That's
here's the thing is like, we are now like in the third, this is the third layer. The first layer's Tame, then King Gizzard. Now we're in the third layer
of Australian psych rock.
Like this is when it starts to get like really crazy. So
These guys are awesome.
don't
It
go
is
into
funny.
it lightly.
You are right about what is in the water in Australia right now, that just like the best psychedelic rock is happening in this part of the world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not close compared to what is being produced in America and Europe. This band's funny because I remember listening to them whenever High Visceral came out. They're like, I think it was High Visceral Part 2, although it might have been Part 1 back in like 2016, 2017. And then I kind of completely forgot about this band until one day you were just like, hey, have you guys ever heard of Psychedelic Porn Crumpets? And that's not a band name that you forget. So I was like, oh yeah, they still make music and
I
are
like
around.
psychedelics and I like porn.
Maybe that was why I checked them out in the first place. I was like, dude, this band's really fucking cool,
Kind of a
man.
fan of Crumpets a little bit.
I can get down with the pastry. I've been watching Great British Bake Off.
Dude,
No,
I can't listen to them anymore. I'm no fap.
No, this is a great.
And
This is a
gluten-free.
really, really good album.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The artwork on the vinyl is like really sick too. I love the cover. It's a grandma like smoking a cigar at a wedding almost, or like a ball. I don't know, but it's fun. That's exactly what you're expecting with this band. It's just a fun listen. I can't reiterate enough that you don't know what's gonna happen next, like ever. It's fun.
That's awesome. Fronzoli by Psychedelic Porn
Fronzoli. You
Crumpets.
have to do the Tommy DeVito.
Fronzoli.
That is Danny's 8, so you're 8, Hunter.
Oh, I'm going to another famous Italian American this time. Lana Del Rey.
Oh boy.
No save it's. I really thought Ernest would jump in here.
I didn't listen to it enough, but what I did, this is a good one.
This is this is a great album, a really, really great album.
Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? You know, maybe we could have thought a little bit more about the SEO before naming an album, Lana. I don't know, just me.
It's like it's a sequel to like Ocean Avenue. Did you know there's a tunnel under
Ocean Boulevard? This album is great. Like, I just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but back in 2019, I think is the year, I was a huge fan of Norman fucking Rockwell. I would not necessarily characterize myself as like a Lana stan. Since then she's released,
you're not that far.
but here's the thing, since then she's released 2 albums and I have not cared for them.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't think that, and some of her older stuff I'm not the biggest fan of either, like going back to Born to Die, Ultraviolence Paradise. There's tracks on them like Off to the Races and video games, like stuff like that are bangers, but I wouldn't say that like the whole albums or anything that I return to. With Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, this is like a big level up for her as a songwriter. This is like by far her most like lyrically deep that she has ever gotten on an album, and the most personal that she's ever gotten. There's so many tracks that are like her going back that really feel nostalgic in a way of like her retracing the steps of her childhood, like going back to church. And there's specifically a track on here, an interlude, I guess you could say, with Judah Smith, who's like this preacher, and you can just hear like a sermon happening for like 3.5 minutes while this is going on, while like a John Baptiste score is just playing, or it breaks right into a John Baptiste like song and then interlude right after that. It's very, very atmospheric.
It's
you guys were just shitting all over him a minute ago, but I think that this is actually the best work that Jack Antonoff has ever done on an album. I think that Antonoff,
it sounds very different from all the other shit he's been doing.
Here's the thing,
5 years.
I do as a Bleachers boy, I understand the haters. I understand.
Do you like the new like Billy Joel move he's made with Bleachers?
Well,
he's like, no, not Springsteen anymore. No, Billy Joel.
I'm Billy Joel.
Yeah, Billy Joel.
So here's the thing. Like, I do understand the hate towards Antonoff, but I think it's more so because like there's more like Antonoff ripoffs than anything else that do what he does a lot fucking worse. I also don't think that his production style necessarily matches all of the artists that he always produces, but with Lana, that is a match made in heaven, more than even with Taylor. That I think that his more ambience, depth, like it's recorded in a giant fucking airplane hangar sound production that he gets out of his artists with just like like subtly in the background as like the 18th track if you were to look at it broken down in like stem files.
He's definitely talented, and he's definitely like he's grown since like a few years ago when everyone was so done with his ass. Like he's gotten better. It's just, you know, there's a sterility sometimes that I haven't heard this album, so I'm sure it's not there.
I think that
it's different.
This is the best use of Antonoff, because I think that Lana, with her voice that is so dreamy and ethereal, some of the stuff, especially on this album, there's so many ballads that are on here that are perfectly interlaced with like bangers to kind of keep you hooked in, and the ballads aren't without their like refrains that do have a catchy quality to them, but because of that airiness to it's a perfect marriage with Antonoff and with the production that he is trying to create on this album. Like I mentioned, there are just some truly like unbelievable ballads, some of the best work that she's ever done. Grandfather, Please Stand Upon the Shoulders of My Father is just truly a like heartbreaking but hopeful ballad that I've like listened to, and it's got me choked up like multiple times while listening to this album. It's really beautiful. It's got some true like bangers, beautiful tracks. Margaret is one of the best love songs that I've heard in years. The If You Know, You Know, that's like big on TikTok and shit like that. That is a song that is actually like Jack Antonoff wrote it for his wife, and it talks about his wife like in that song itself. It's very beautiful. A&W, stone cold banger. Absolutely.
Very
that is
unique song.
It's a very long track, and there's a clear like act 1 and act 2 break that happens in it, and then it just becomes something much more like
If you listen to it with headphones on, there's just a crazy like low end on that song.
Yeah.
There's just like these reverberating bass. Like,
That's what I mean about the Antonoff production. It is like him at his like most Antonoff, and I think I think he kind of needs to do the most of himself. I think he's like, whenever he's like muting himself, it's almost worse, if that makes sense. Like you got your thing, just stick
like
with it.
Early this year or maybe even last year, he just put a video on Twitter of like him and I guess Bleachers on like
on the bus.
Yeah. And people were,
wasn't it Beatles?
They were doing this like really shitty sounding like lo-fi cover of Hard Day's Night, and I like genuinely really liked it. Like it sounded like shit, but I actually really liked like the way it sounded. And everyone was just dunking all over him because it was just peak like hating Antonoff here. And I was like, God, keep him on the fucking bus.
Just stay there, stay on the bus.
Let him do some lo-fi.
Yeah.
This was also a year I discovered John Baptiste. The John Baptiste wave that
someone
happened
doesn't
last
watch Colbert.
year.
You haven't been watching every single episode of Colbert every single night for
I
the past 5
know
years.
of him, and that's it from that show. Whenever he won Album of the Year
Your
last
wife
year,
doesn't
year
just
before, I
put
was
on
like,
Colbert like in the background.
I'm sorry, I have a different type of wife than you, Ernie.
You don't have a Colbert
I
wife.
think we have different types of wife. She's more of a
Kimmel?
Yeah.
Fallon?
No, I
Which
almost-
late
I almost-
night
I
host?
almost said something else, and I didn't want to offend Guy in case she listens. to this.
You just punted so hard. You're gonna have to cut.
She's a Tucker Carlson wife, okay? Like I don't know. We all got different wives.
Ernest edited out like 30 seconds of silence.
He just all stared into space.
I have like
and started shitting.
Okay. No, great album. Just some true bangers on here. The John Baptiste feature on Candy Necklace is great. Paris, Texas is a banger. The Father John Misty heads that are out there.
I'm not 30 yet.
Let the Light In featuring Father John Misty is, I think you would like that. It's very, very Father John Misty.
I'm excited to get into Father
Antonoff
John
does
Misty.
not feature, does not produce that song. So maybe that's an entry point for you.
Father John Misty, Fleet Foxes.
Yeah.
You'll be there soon.
Yeah.
Don't worry
it's
about
coming.
it.
I will say, hour 17 minutes.
I know it's a long one for you.
It's a little beefy. It's a little too beefy for me.
So
That's
is
so
almost
hypocritical considering how long our fucking podcast is.
that's true. You could listen to this album like front and back twice in the runtime of this episode. It's funny you bring up the runtime because really this is an album that feels like a deluxe version of this album. Like it feels like she didn't cut anything. Specifically, like Margaret is kind of the last track on this album, and shout out Anthony Fantano for one intelligent point that he made about this album.
Let's hear it.
That was not meant to be backhanded. I feel like it sounded backhanded.
That was just outright insulting.
I do not mean it.
The needle drop heads
I'm
are
saying-
coming for you right
I'm
now.
saying
One right thing that he ever said.
I didn't mean as one right thing. I meant as a point that he made that Margaret feels like the closing track. And then the 3 last songs that are on this album, Fishtail, Peppers, Taco Truck, XVB, which ends with a reprise of her song Venice Bitch from Norman fucking Rockwell, really feel like a bonus track. They feel like extras that are coming on, like you're hearing the credit music to a movie that you just watch. So I think if you listen to it, just start to Margaret, it feels more like a cohesive idea than the last 3 tracks. But I also like the last 3 tracks, so I'm not complaining about like extra music. At the end of the day, I would rather a band that I like make, or an artist that I like produce and release more songs that I like.
Lana Del Rey. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? Is Hunter's number 8. My number 8 is This Is Why by Paramore.
Save it.
Yes.
Nice.
Let's go.
My number 8 is Yves to moi.
Nice.
Yves to
This
moi.
is
I really wanted
Just
to
didn't-
get more into this album. It's a good one.
Praise a Lord who chews but which does not consume. Semicolon, parentheses, or simply comma, hot picturing world.
and you're
end
saying,
parentheses.
and you hate fucking Coheed and Cambria.
I know.
My friend
With that
Drew
shit.
put me on Yves to moi.
Hey, you hear that, Jamie? Not you,
James.
Not fucking
Jamie.
You hear that? I call him.
And
I
Brad.
call him Jamie.
You guys
Listen
are
here, Jamie.
You hear that, Jamie and Bradley? I love this guy. I love this album. It's my favorite album of his so far.
Yep.
I think production wise is what it really brings it home for me. I brought this up when we were talking like mid-year or whatever. The bass is.
Was this one of your mid-year draft picks?
I don't even know if I drafted it.
No, I don't think
I
so.
think we're just talking about it, and it's just like brilliantly produced. I think he has a heavy hand in producing. He's pretty, he has sort of like an auteur feel.
Yeah, he's
to him
it's
as a
very
person.
like artsy.
Yeah, it is, and it's super like lyrically, it's like it's not stuff that I'm usually into because it is like it's like very like is self-serious in a lot of ways, and I'm not super drawn to that, but I love the way this shit sounds. I love the sound of it. The way he sings, you kind of don't have to pay attention to the lyrics, even though the vocals are jacked up, because he's using his voice in a very instrumentative way. And then on top of that, like I said last time we talked about it, like rock music, you're allowed to turn the bass up. Like he just turned the absolute shit out of the bass up on this album, and I'm obsessed with the way it sounds. And like in any headphones in my car, it comes through so heavy. Like, and it is like a played bass guitar. It's not like an 808 bass.
It sounds huge,
but it's loud. Like, yeah, it is so fucking beautiful sounding to me. And then on top of that, he always has really like stellar drum tracks. I don't know who's laying him down. Maybe him. He's one of those dudes where I just kind of assume he's like doing everything.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, no, for real. Is it Sean Lee Bowie? Is that who Yves Tomois is?
Bro's name is Sean.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He does not look like a Sean. No
Yeah.
offense. Yves to moi heads.
Yeah, he looks more Italian than Irish.
Fronzoli.
They go by they them.
Oh shit. Awesome fucking album.
We're gonna get destroyed. From the
You
Janelle heads
are
to the Eve heads.
you can't live in fear, because you know what you could have done to the Color Purple heads is moved on. I think you may have made it worse. I've been sending that to sort of
My apology.
I've been sending your apology to like activist groups, on Facebook, and they're not liking it.
Yeah, the same groups that got Obama to amend his post. Those same groups. Like, we did it, Joe.
I love the album generally. I think that it's, I don't know, auteur sounding music. There's going to be another album that pops up later on mine that is very similar in that respect, and he's sort of, I don't know, he's really doing his own shit. They're doing their own thing, pushing boundaries sonically in a ton of different ways.
Yeah.
Like it's super, every song has something interesting for me to like hook onto. And I admired that.
I really got into Ecolalia a lot.
Mhm,
That was probably one of my most played tracks.
My favorite song is In Spite of War. Like the way it just like closes that song is just like so powerful. It's like, you're in chaos kind of thing. I mean, obviously with the name of the album, it's like very like heaven and hell oriented.
Mm-hmm. They reminded me of almost like if you put like TV in the radio in like like in like the SpongeBob like future, where everything is chrome, like in like a fucking Prince machine. Like that's the sound that they kind of remind me of.
It's very experimental.
Yeah, but there's still this undercurrent of like mid 2000s British like alternative. You know what I mean?
Kind of punky.
Which that is like one of my favorite
Like
little
Block Party.
little micro genres ever. Yeah, like all those bands, and I can hear a lot of that coming through, even though this is so progressive and different. So I love like the balance of that.
Yeah.
I need to listen to this album more. I really love Meteora Blues and Heaven Surrounds Us Like a Hood, but I need to
I was gonna
dive
shout that
more
one out
deeper
too.
in.
Lovely Sewer goes crazy.
Great album cover too.
Yeah.
Always
Rocking that fit.
always with this.
This was my number 12.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
But yeah, no,
There we go.
I like this album a lot. It was
It's awesome.
up until about 3 days ago, it was in my top 10 because I mean, like you said, everything can kind of shift.
Yeah, and it came out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Fronzoli really needed to get in there.
it did. It did.
Jesus Christ. The fucking stray shots at Jungle and Fronzoli.
Yeah, now the psychedelic porn crumpet heads are coming at you.
Oh God, no!
There's
Little
like
Rodrigos.
there's like 4 really vocal dudes on the internet that are coming out.
Don't worry, they're not on YouTube. They're just on
the
Reddit.
film look is coming after you.
We don't post on Reddit, so they're never going to hear this. Okay.
Have we talked about the film look on pod?
We discovered it on the
Yeah, it was
podcast.
live on the pod.
The film look is so awesome.
What episode was that? I can't
That
even
was
remember.
that was the mid-year pod. I was
Yeah.
talking about how I saw the Odessa.
Odessa,
movie.
that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I follow
Because
that guy
Odessa
now.
was
Yeah,
one
that's
of your favorite things that you saw this
Well, no,
year.
it was just one of the last movies I saw because
Yeah.
you guys were asking. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
you didn't
I
draft
just saw
it.
this. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't draft it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Metzel.
Sorry, the film look.
Sorry, film look.
Yeah.
5-star rating.
Yeah. I liked the film. It was fun. But anyway.
Okay. All right. So Yves Tumor
Yeah.
is Drew's 8. So
Banger
we're on to
album.
7.
Banger album. My 7 is Oh Monolith by Squid.
Hey, brother,
are
so is
going-
mine.
You are going to have to save.
I had a feeling that we were going to have to wait a bit.
Hold on. It's not on your list?
I didn't listen to it
There's
enough.
no way. This
Brother,
is a Drew band.
here's
I
the
know,
thing,
I know.
Drew.
That's the thing is I found their bitch asses a few years ago, but I wasn't crazy about the single for some reason. It just didn't hit with me.
We're
The
going to have
rest of the
to-
album is so much better.
Yeah, we'll
I
talk
know.
about
I'm
it.
gonna
We'll
get
talk about it
get
shortly.
more into it. I knew you guys would be mean to me about this.
I literally wrote in my notes, this is a Drew band.
Well, he showed it to us. The last album.
And that album is like one of.
Yeah.
If I could redo my list that year, it'd be like number 1 or 2.
Dude,
Like,
that's crazy.
I didn't listen to it
This
enough.
album rocks.
It's my fault.
Okay. Well, you ruined the pod.
I'm.
I got
Ernie, can we scrap this episode and start over
Drew-
without Drew?
Drew, fully
Hey guys, I'm the
underneath
third guy and we bought
Yeah.
a mic now.
power rankings: 3 Drew, 2 James, 1 Brad.
Shit.
It's like the dad in Iron Claw. Like, you're number 1.
Yeah,
Where
we-
everyone knows that you're my favorite
Everyone
son.
knows we
and
should
then 2 and then
we should rank podcast hosts like after each episode and be like, Drew, it's a little lackluster that time. You're going down to 3,
Oh
buddy.
my god, the easiest Oscar cocktail ever. It's a White Claw, the Iron Claw.
Oh, yeah.
Oh shit!
Got it. Nailed it.
Listeners, of
Drew,
the pod,
back number 1.
We were figuring out our Oscar party drinks before recording this episode.
So this was your 7 as well?
Yeah, my 7 as well.
Okay.
Well, speaking of saving it, 100 Gecs, 10,000.
Save it
Yeah,
Just-
save it.
We know it's Danny's number 1,
just a
Yeah,
bit.
Save it.
Just
Just
a bit.
so we'll wait on that.
So-
So that was your what?
That was a quick round. See, I told you a lot of secrets.
So this is actually getting to a point. Starting with my top 7 albums, I actually truly love.
That's
all of them.
where-
And
my
it's
7
hard to order them.
7 was the big breaking point for me. 8 to 15 was kind of interchangeable, and now it's 7 up
Yeah,
is
I agree.
tough.
Yeah,
actually.
my number 7 is a band that I came to new this year. I don't know if you guys have listened to them at all. Hotline TNT.
No.
No.
Pop off.
The album is called Cartwheel. It's fucking awesome. It hits so hard. I didn't know if it had any critical reception, so I looked it up like while we've been podding, and it actually did get like best new music. And I'm glad to hear it because they deserve it. This has been a big year. There have been a lot of like thinky pieces about like shoegaze's return. Partially because of, TikTok is really into slowing down music and you get that sort of wall of sound reverb thing.
Wednesday is very shoegaze inspired.
This, I like it because it sort of expands what I imagined shoegaze to be or understood it to be, because this is, we're not getting any synth wall of sound in this. This is just like guitars just fucking jamming down on chords, like, and it fucking rules. It's effects. really like accessible chord progressions. You're not hearing something and thinking like, whoa, that's super artsy. Like it sounds similar to like, like indie rock that you like, or like even like a lot of like, it sounds like a relative to like Midwest emo in a lot of ways. But it's all got sort of, it leaves space for like insane amounts of reverb and fuzz and like overdrive, all that. And the result is just, it's fucking phenomenal. I could have put this higher on my list. I think that they do a thing that is really cool to me, which is I think in most songs, and when they perform live, they have two guitars playing the exact same thing.
I love that. I love when bands do that.
Because they just fucking jam down on chords. Yeah. And I love that sound.
You got to do one left channel, one right channel.
It's really cool. The vocals are not anything fancy. It's just a solid vocalist. You're getting a lot of like sort of like just major key songs. It's you're not getting like crazy moodiness, although it does sort of vacillate. It's not all like one thing. Because that's one risk of shoegaze is like if you're getting a wall of sound, the album might end up sounding like a bit of a mess and just like everything's the same.
Are you trying to throw shade at Swans right now, or
you need someone else coming for you?
Literally, I don't know if I'll ever listen to a Swans album.
Pretty kind, great album.
It's just
I don't know. Throw shade at like I mean, you're going after like My Bloody Valentine or anything.
No, that's the thing is I always understood shoegaze to be like Loveless, which is one of maybe my like 20 favorite albums ever by My Bloody Valentine, or like even like Cocteau Twins, from like the late 80s, early 90s, like stuff like that, where it's like it's messing around a little more with like super like emo, like depth of emotion music, where it's like you can hear when you listen to Loveless, like, oh yeah, I bet that guy never made an album again because he sounds tortured. And he didn't, because he is, what I mean? This album by Hotline TNT, I absolutely fucking love. It dovetails into a band that I've talked about for a couple years in a row now that hasn't had an album out that I've actually put on a list, but Ovlov, OVLOV, which again this year became one of my favorite bands like ever. They only have 3 albums and they demonstrate really consistent growth. And their last album, their newest one, it's really in this wheelhouse. So if you like the Hotline TNT album, listen to Ovlov. They go together really well. It's just an awesome band. Like they did an awesome job with this album.
So just because I'm interested in this band, are they more closer to like a heavier shoegaze, like something like a Death Heaven, or are they more?
No, that's the thing. It's not. You're not screaming.
Okay.
We're not hollering. We're singing.
I know you do not like hooting or hollering. Famously, you are not a fan of hooting or hollering.
That's facts.
I was looking at the Spotify section, and it's like I guess bands that are similar, and it says like fans also like, and there's a band called Weed, I guess.
Yes.
Weed. Fans like Weed.
I didn't listen to that album, but they get mentioned in the same breath as Hotline TNT, like all
Wednesdays
the time.
On there.
Yeah.
Is mentioned.
It's a really, really great album. It's, with shoegaze type music, like your mileage may vary. Maybe you want a little bit of like free space in your songs, and that's fair. So you just wouldn't like this, because this is just like you're just getting consistent noise, but also like it's not drowning anything. Every piece like has a place in every song, I guess. So I really admire the effort from that perspective. Like it sort of expanded what I understood shoegaze to be in a cool way.
Did you mention Jack White, Third Man Records?
Yeah.
Our guy.
I found that out like literally a few days ago, actually, that he sort of, he had a role in not just like, giving them the deal, but like sort of producing them and like bringing this sound out of them. And it does make some sense, because Jack's a noisy boy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they did an awesome job. Hotline TNT, Cartwheel.
Nice. Okay. Hey, 33 minutes. Love to see it.
Yeah, quick one.
I am noting all these run times, because I'm going to listen to all these albums, so I got to know. I got to structure my day.
There's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard, and you're like, fuck, I have to carve out like an afternoon for that now.
All right, so that is Drew's 7. So 6, Danny.
My number 6. I was mature for my age, but I was still a child.
Hey, brother, save it.
What is this, group therapy?
Group therapy.
This is group therapy.
Nice. You drafted this mid-year.
I did.
Yeah, well,
on a week's notice, I found the band. I found the fellas and her, Jada Grace, a week before.
On a week's notice, like we texted you, like, Danny, we need you to find some sort of sick ass artist right now.
Danny,
Get on it.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
It'll be coming.
All right, Hunter, you're 6.
My 6, I don't know if we have to wait for it, if we can talk about it now, but it's 10,000 Gecs.
We Drew just made a face.
Drew gave a face like we're gonna have to wait for it.
Save it, buddy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Danny's number 0. As in the worst thing he's ever heard in his entire life.
I'll wait to. I was going to say something, but I'll wait until we actually talk about it.
I have notes.
Oh, you have notes?
I have notes.
Oh,
did you
Jesus.
give it a second listen?
I have notes.
Okay, so now we're at my number 6, which is an album that really surprised me. And originally, I know I had said that like the order like didn't really matter too much, but originally this album had like my 10 spot. Like it's not going higher than 10. And then I listened to it again and it moved up.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Foo Fighters.
What the hell?
Oh,
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Wow.
B.
are you sure you're not 30? Are you
But
sure?
sure you're not
Can I
40?
see that fucking birth certificate?
But Here We Are is the name of the album.
I love that song, the title track.
Guys,
a flash.
guys, Foo Fighters, they haven't put out a good album. Anyone want to guess the year? What year was that Foo Fighters last put out like a great
Echoes,
album?
Silence,
No, I was gonna say Waking Light is a good album.
Wasting Light is 2011.
So
what is
that's
that? 12
years ago.
12 years
Yeah.
ago. So
13.
oh, because
now.
it's 2024.
Now, I was
Yes.
from the year that I was making the argument that this album is good.
I'll stand by Rope as like an excellent single.
I think
Yeah, which
Wasting
is
Light
from
is
Wasting
a good.
Light.
Yeah,
here's the thing.
I will not stand by Walk because that got overplayed on X101.5.
Okay,
I think that Walk is a good song that then got ruined by the radio stations that we were listening to in the year 2011.
So here's what happened in the past like 10 days. I had this album at my 10 slot because I just wanted to talk about Foo Fighters. And I was like, I think this album is worth the discussion in the best of the year podcast. And then I gave it a couple more listens and I was like, oh my God, I am like so emotionally affected by these songs.
Yeah.
This is an album that channels loss and grief through rock and roll in a way that I kind of have, I don't know, I don't want to say if I've never heard, but I can't think of another rock album that rocks as hard as this does, and then it hits you in the feels as much as it does.
Did you mention it in the mid-year?
I don't think it'd been out then.
It was.
Oh, no. I think it was. You're right. I think it came out, what was it, April? No, June. So it must have just come out. It must have just come out when we did that pod.
I wasn't sure what I said back then, if I did say anything. And I hate to say this, but it feels like the death of Taylor really brought this like out of them, that they can still like rock.
Well, it's this album is a way to process the emotions. Is what this is.
That's how the podcast is going to go when Hunter dies.
Oh God. That's
Yeah.
what we'll do.
You guys
What,
are just
like-
going to take off like
in like 2 months.
If everything works out.
This album really surprised me a lot. It shouldn't work because the subject matter is so grim, and a lot of the words on paper kind of feel like so spiritual to the point of being like Christian rock, but Grohl like has such a fucking ferocity. He's drumming on this album for the first time in like maybe 20 years.
It's the first time since he didn't trust Taylor Hawkins to drum on the albums, which was the early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever the album that Monkey Wrench and Everlong.
Yeah, that's
the Color in the
90s.
Shape.
Yeah,
Color in the Shape. That's I think the first official. Or no. That album has Grohl on it.
Oh, so is Echo Silence Patience Grace the first album that has fucking
Hawkins.
Taylor drumming?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Okay,
yeah,
no, so Color in the Shape was 97.
Yeah.
So that I'd have to look at the credits of like every single one to see, but that's the one I remember like Grohl having drumming credit on.
Yep.
So you know, he wasn't going to put on someone else to take over for Taylor on this one. He just did it himself. And you feel it, man. You feel it in the lyrics. You feel it in the energy, the intensity of the songs.
Grohl is a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he's underrated historically for his drumming.
Yeah,
like I think that people kind of have forgotten.
Yeah,
him.
like
for as much as like Foo Fighters is the last great rock band and all of that shit.
Yeah,
like,
but it's just like the work he's done on just like popping up on random. Like he's done a ton of shit with Queens of the Stone Age and like even like Tenacious D. The shit he lays down on their tracks is like otherworldly. Yeah. Like he's an animal on the drums.
As someone who's had a drum kit for the last 2 weeks, I can say I've gained a greater appreciation for Dave.
Do you think Dave is jamming out on like the electronic?
Yeah, he's playing Lessons right now on a Pro Max. So this album is really good. It is really good. It's one of those things that I think I just wasn't in the headspace whenever this album first came out, because it's almost like the Injury Reserve album that came out last year.
It felt like it was too soon.
That is, it's undeniably good, and I feel the same way about the Injury Reserve album. That is really good, but it's almost like you can feel the heartbreak too much, and sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? I just want to listen to my fun KAYTRAMINÉ beats and not have to worry about not have to think about these things.
The thing that makes this album more palatable, at least, is that Dave Grohl is also a really traditional songwriter. Like he gets it.
It's very like the classic.
The phrase I always think of with him is the "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." Like every single song that he writes is like it's gonna go opening riff, like verse, pre-chorus, chorus. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna have that structure to it.
Actually, take the chorus, make that the verse, and then write an even catchier chorus. That's the Grohl method. No, guys, I thought that this was just gonna be kind of like, you know, Ernest picks a fucking Killers and Jack White album. What the fuck?
Ernest is trying to keep the dream of rock and roll alive.
But I'm telling you, this album is genuinely great, especially given the track record they've had the past decade.
Yeah,
they became a gimmick band. They became a band of like, oh, we're gonna make an album and every song's gonna be recorded in a different studio across the country. Yeah, like it was like literally just full on gimmicks.
We're gonna release an album, go on tour, play all our old shit anyway.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And then it had all the telltale signs of like being such a shitty album. But it's their best since Echoes, I think.
I think that one of the things that was sad about like another factor whenever I listen to this is thinking about like you just can't get that out of your head about what their next album would have been with Taylor because of how much Taylor had taken over as like a second lead in the band.
Dude, he was
getting out there sing that exactly. That's what I'm saying is like, what would this album have been if Taylor wouldn't have passed away?
I mean, look, this is not as good as any of the classic Foo Fighters album. But if you push that aside and you just look at it as like the year in music, like what were the best albums that came out in this year? I think it has to be up there, especially given the context of the story of Foo Fighters. I mean, yeah, we talked about it. Like it feels too soon. I feel like just the idea of them going back out on tour after Taylor dying on tour and then replacing him and then having all these shows, like that still doesn't sit well with me like right now. I don't love the idea that they didn't stop, but Taylor wouldn't have wanted them to stop. I mean, this is something we've talked about a lot about like what should the future of Foo Fighters, should there even be a future of Foo Fighters? And I think this album proves that like even if there's a hole, a void left by Taylor, there still is a future for Foo Fighters. And this is the Grohl. It was only going to process this through music.
Oh yeah.
That's just who he is. And this isn't just about Taylor. Like, dude, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
Like
no,
that's
you lost two
you know, that was a
friends,
lifetime ago, but you don't forget something like that.
Also to drugs, like that too. And
his mom also died.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it is an explosion of emotion is what this album is. And I just couldn't help but love it. It's so good.
I will say, in the same way that Taylor would have wanted them to keep touring and everything, if I die, you guys better not fucking continue this podcast without me. I just want to make that
we
very
have to
clear.
stop?
Yeah, you have to stop.
Sorry, Danny. You're not in.
You're not. Yeah. Here's the thing. You guys can see each other quarterly,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Once a quarter.
The album is But Here We Are.
This is going to be so sad to come back to if you actually die. We're going to feel like, I think we have to stop.
You have to have like a big
We're
rebrand.
free.
Yeah.
We did it.
You guys have to.
We can finally stop.
The pod's over.
We finished.
Your significant others are like, oh my God, I get to see my boyfriend or husband again.
Foo Fighters is my number 6. Drew, number 6.
It feels wrong putting it this low because like on a technical basis, it's got to be like maybe the best of the year, but it's Caroline Polacheck.
This was a late find for me. It should be higher.
Later for
It
me
should be
too,
higher.
because I've liked Caroline Polacheck for a few years. But I wasn't vibing with one of the singles that came out for this album, and I was a little worried because she's in this sort of collective of insanely cool like pop, like alt pop girlies, you know, with Charlie XCX and then Rina Sawayama. And Rina put out a dog shit album a year
we
or
talked
two
about
ago.
it last year.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh no. Even though the single she had put out previous to that, like it feels like it was put out like 2 or 3 years ago, but Bunny is a Rider, which somehow is on this album that came out this year. I've been listening to that song, it feels like for like 4 years, but whatever. This album's like otherworldly. Like she's like an alien. It feels like, you know what I mean? Like there's like influence that does not feel like
Bunny is a Writer came out in 2021, which does make sense. I remember that does feel like that song came out forever
Yeah,
ago.
man. And her, you know, her more sort of grounded, even though like back then she was already really, you know, like out there and awesome, but like her like So Hot You're Hurting My Feelings is one of my favorite like quote unquote pop songs ever. I was a little worried she was going to be too out there on this album. And it might be too out there to have songs that you're like, that are like earwormy and are just getting stuck in your head all day. But like production wise, like it's like, this album's like different. Like it is so weird. It's so fucking crazy. I can't really name something that doesn't pop up on the album, but it all sounds really cohesive. It's like, there's a ton of like early 2000s, almost like breakbeat, like, you know, like dance hall, not dance hall, but like club music influence. Nice. But then on top of that, like mega international, like Spanish guitars, stuff that sounds even like Middle Eastern. Like she's taking from like literally fucking everywhere, and turning it into like one sort of polished thing. And it's all sort of ruminating on the same thing. It's all like really sort of deeply like emotional songs about like wanting. It's like it's out of this fucking world. It's so good. I came to it late too, and I'm upset by that.
I wish I would have given this album more time. There's a lot of Wise Blood on this, which I'm
like that.
Listen, I love some Wise Blood.
This little group of like LA based like cool ass pop girls is sick as fuck.
I think I only listened to this album once, and it was like last week because it was just like, oh, I need to just throw this on while I'm doing other shit. So I'm like half listening and not really giving it the time of day. And this kind of feels like one of those albums that if we do this in like a year or two, that it's going to be on the list.
Yeah, you just you put it on and you're like,
I love Caroline Polacheck.
It's like incomparable, and that's, you know, that's like not in a bad way. Like that's like a really really high praise. It's like, where the fuck is she pulling this out of? Like it's not coming from like some like direct, you know, influence. And I like it when people wear their influences on their sleeve. It's just it's a whole other ball game when someone is just like, I don't know, I just kind of thought of this sound and I'm just gonna make it happen. It's super admirable. It's weird how like I found her a few years ago because she went on Yeah But Still, because she's like randomly friends with Brandon Wardell.
What?
Yeah,
weird.
Like that's how I
that rocks.
I found her in like 2020, and this is like music from like Jupiter. Like it's so fucking insane. I love it.
Awesome. It's Caroline Polacheck. Desire, I Want to Turn Into You. Great album cover of her like
really cool
on a
crawling.
bus, crawling on or as a subway floor.
Yeah, like a train or something.
It looks very memorable. All right, that's the bottom half of the list. Should we call part 1?
What are we at?
An hour and 27
Yes,
minutes.
because
I've
that's
heard-
when normal people are like,
And
all right,
end the
I'm about
podcast.
tapped
Yeah.
out.
I've heard that people like the longer.
3 point, like 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like minimum
Right.
3.5.
We did great, guys.
Yeah, look
Well,
at
I think
us.
the second half is going to be longer, and they're going to be looking.
Yeah, there's gonna be there was some run over for the first half, so we'll see how long.
So
it goes.
that's part 1 of Listomania, day 1, week 1.
Yeah, we're the same. Thing now.
The album, the best albums of
Can't wait
2023,
to see you guys next week.
6 through 10. Stick around for 5 through 1
We should all switch clothes now.
Yeah.
in a separate episode.
Danny, dibs on your Finn's hat.
Okay.
We'll see you then. Part 2. Tune in. Bye.
Bye.